How to Disappear by Gillian McAllister. Read by Nicola Walker. Prologue. During. Lauren ducks into the alleyway without warning. She'll do it here, before she goes inside. She gets out the lipstick. It's a nude shade she's worn for years. Her mirror is old too. Aidan bought it for her the Christmas before last. She looks at it now, her initials inscribed on the back, and opens it. One blue eye stares back at her. As she hides in the alleyway, she sees what she assumes is the candidate before her leaving the nursery. Oh, no, Lauren thinks as she watches her go. The woman is wearing a skinny trouser suit, burgundy loafers, good hair. But more than that, she has confidence. It's everywhere. In her walk, in the way she holds her handbag dangling at the end of a slim arm. Her appearance is neat, whereas Lauren, looking back at herself in the mirror, is definitely messy. Her hair has frizzed in the rain around her temples. The woman glances briefly at her, and Lauren shrinks further back into the alley. Don't look at me. Don't speak to me. She stares out onto the rain-slicked street after the woman has gone. There are people coming and going in winter coats, Christmas shopping in their hands. It's late afternoon, already dark. The light from the shop fronts creates blurred sepia puddles of spilled light on the pavement. It is a totally normal street, full of totally normal people. She hopes. Lauren looks again in the mirror and puts her lipstick on. It feathers at the edges and runs. She wipes around her mouth, but smears it further, leaving her skin red and sore-looking. What will they ask? Sweat gathers across her lower back. She doesn't know how to answer interview questions anymore. Not even the most basic ones. She gives up with the lipstick, closes the mirror, and slides it back into her handbag. Inside the bag is a Portuguese custard tart from the bakery, which she will eat on the bus home, the paper bag spread across her lap to catch the crumbs. She's also saved a trashy article to read about two celebrities who are rumoured to be having an affair. 5 minutes of guilty bliss, just for her afterwards. What remains of her, anyway. The handbag, the lipstick, and the preference for custard tarts and celebrity gossip are old. The parts of her that she has been permitted to keep. The parts of her that are left. She thinks of everything she can no longer do. Kiss her husband. Post on Instagram. Tell the truth. Lauren goes inside. The reception has wooden floors and a branded rug with the nursery's name on it. High trees. They're going to ask her competency questions, she is thinking, as the receptionist slides the glass screen back. Can I help? She says. And Lauren thinks, no, nobody can. Suddenly I can't recall a time when I helped a difficult child to develop or I reported a safeguarding concern. Perhaps she can just tell them the truth. A half-truth. That she really, really needs this job. That she would be good at it. That she will love the children. That there is nothing better to her than seeing a 3-year-old late talker say, Lauren, look, out of nowhere, as though somebody just turned on the speech part of their brain overnight. I have a 4:30 interview, she says. As she speaks, she smells it. All nurseries smell the same. Poster paints. The plastic smell of lunchboxes, cucumber and bread. She blinks and glances around her. She is home. Home amongst these smells and the little starfish hands and feet of the children she will fall in love with. Lauren forgets her frizzy hair, her smudged lipstick. Great, the woman says. Her nails click on the keyboard. Please, can you confirm your name? Leonora, Lauren replies. She glances at her reflection in the glass screen. There is no Lauren anymore. Lauren is gone. Before. Chapter 1. Zara. Holloway Grammar School, London. August. Zara is 14 years old when she witnesses the murder. She is reading a book as she walks from the school football pitch to the surrounding fields. Dry clumps of yellow-green grass litter the lawn like balled-up socks, and she keeps tripping over them. She's reading Eleanor and Park. She knows it makes no sense to read and walk, but she can't help it. She's gripped by the love story. As she narrowly misses walking into a goalpost, she puts the book in her bag and thinks instead. Specifically, Zara begins to think about stationery. She bought new pens today, a pack of 3 wrapped in cellophane. Blue, black, red. She'll never use the red one. Isn't it rude to write in red? But she likes the collection, the 3 together in a neat row. Zara likes tidiness, though she thinks maybe she shouldn't. She should like drinking and boys. But anyway, it is so nice to look forward to things in this way. The past few years have been full of worry. It came from nowhere. One morning, when she was 11, Zara began to worry about everything. What if her mother died? What if she attended a party and felt so panicked she needed to leave? What if the tube crashed? What if... It has taken Zara years to learn to manage it. Anxiety. Such a bland name for something so sharp. Zara has always felt on the sidelines, thinking about books at the school disco when she should be thinking about dancing, apparently. But the anxiety somehow made her more so. An observer of life, not a participator in it. She once said this to her stepsister, Poppy, who said, "I'd die, Zara. You're such a mood." It's already dusky at 8 o'clock, but the evening stretches out in front of her. Tonight is going to be spent in a delicious frenzy of unpacking. 4 stiff cardboard folders, slippery A4 plastic wallets, sticky tabs. Joy of missing out, is it called? JOMO. Well, that. She'll sort out her folders, and then she'll return to school, to year 10. A new woman, she has decided. She doesn't quite know who she will be, not yet. But it won't be who she was before. When she first hears the noise, she tells herself it's nothing. An unexplained shout on a hot summer's evening. Her pace is slow and relaxed across the empty field, the sky a high lavender dome above her, little dried tufts of grass sticking to her trainers. It's only when she hears the second shout, then the third, that she stops. A fine layer of sweat on her lower back slowly evaporating as she turns, scanning the horizon for the noises like an animal looking for its predator. Her eyes land on the bandstand. It's been having its roof repaired over the summer. Each week on the way home from her extra literature lessons, not cool at all, but she loves everything about them, slightly more progress has been made. She squints now in the half light. That's where the noise is coming from. 2 men, one on the stage, another halfway up the steps. She paces forward, then stops, maybe 40 feet away. Something's happening. Zara's anxiety often used to make her think that something bad was happening when it wasn't. But this time, she thinks she might be right. Goosebumps appear on her arms as she moves back across the field to one of the greenhouses nearby. She lets herself in and breathes in its familiar, hot musk tomato smell. She spent so many hours in here over the spring, growing organic and non-organic lettuces for a biology experiment that she found stressful. She would repot the lettuces in her break times, moving them from small pots on the windowsill to fat grow bags outside. She would lie awake sometimes, worrying about her frilly-leaved lettuces out in the cold, which her mum, Lauren, laughed at. "But there's no need to worry about that," she said, a sentence she had uttered often. Concealed by forgotten spindly grey-green plants, she looks carefully through the holes in the leaves and into the bandstand. She can see the figures clearly. 2 boys, a couple of years older than her, maybe 16, not men, as she had first thought. There is no way she can intervene. All of the old feelings rear up, butterflies in her stomach, cold hands, a feeling of being watched, being hunted, the old anxiety, but this time with reason. She can't step forward. She is frozen in fear. She can't leave the safety of the greenhouse. She puts a hand on the mottled green window pane, just looking. It is important, if she can't step in, to look. It is the right thing to do, to watch when something important is unfolding. And Zara so likes to do the right thing. She watches it unfold, staring, unblinking, so hard her eyes become dry and painful. Something horrendous is happening. But Zara forces herself to keep staring, not glancing away for even a moment. She counts instead. 1 second. 2. 3. It's over in 10. And nothing is ever the same again. Chapter 2. Lauren. Islington, London. October the following year. Lauren watches Zara walk into the kitchen. She's wearing a white blouse and a black skirt. Her legs are long now, somehow gamine, like a deer's or an antelope's. She seems to have grown since witnessing the crime last summer. Taller and more womanly. The way she holds herself, the things she says. A catch-22, isn't it? She said the other day. Her baby daughter. Lauren considers her, now, just standing there in a patch of October sunlight. She's so beautiful that Lauren feels pride bubbling right up through her like pink lemonade. Feeling okay? She asks. Zara's role in today's trial has become part of their lives this past year. At each meeting, Zara has seemed to mature even further, speaking up, giving opinions, organising the family. We're at the lawyer's at 7, remember? She said recently, and Lauren thought, who are you? The anxiety that has plagued Zara since she was 11 is still there sometimes, but so is another Zara too. A newly brave, bold girl who wants to be a proofreader. I get to read books for a living. And who won't eat meat or buy leather. Her daughter, the almost adult, grown so fully and so beautifully into herself that Lauren wants to call it out of an open window. I, Lauren Starling, have raised a woman. Zara shrugs, and Lauren waits. This is what they do. Zara is as circumspect as her absent father, who left before she was born, or rather was never with Lauren enough to call his abandonment leaving. Lauren still marvels at how many of his traits have filtered down to her daughter, even though he never sees her. Like how the moon still pulls the tides from afar. I mean, it's the right thing, Zara says now. Zara thinks plenty of things are the right thing. Recycling, slow fashion, free-range eggs. And now this, too. It is absolutely the right thing, Lauren says to her, wondering if she sounds patronising, as Aidan walks into the kitchen. He paces across the tiled floor, dodging the hanging lamps they put up above the table last year. He has one hand in his hair, shirt untucked. His body is an open bracket, taut with tension. He has wild dark hair, still thick into his 40s, and round brown glasses. He always looks slightly harassed, and more so right now. But, Aidan says, raising his head in a sort of backwards nod at his stepdaughter, you don't have to do it. You do not. It's not too late to say no. Say the word. He brandishes his mobile phone. And I'll cancel. She'll be fine, Lauren says, giving him a look. I hope so, Zara says on an exhale. I'll look back and be glad I did it. I know I will. On the advice of the Crown Prosecution Solicitor, Harry, an unmarked police car is waiting for them outside. More anonymous, he had said lightly. And all three of you in the back is best. Harder to distinguish her that way. As they file out down their front path, their neighbour does too. "Nice day for October," he says cordially to Lauren. She's always liked Ray. He's 93 this year and always wears the same jacket, which he repairs in small patches. "It's been such good weather lately," she says to him. Aidan rushes past her, throwing her a look. She reluctantly gets into the car. Why can't they chat with Ray on a stressful day like this to ease the tension just a little? Aidan sits pavement side in the car, his back rigid, blocking anybody from seeing in, even though the windows are opaque with frost. Now they're in the car, she can't prevent herself from thinking about it any longer. That her daughter, who she shielded from swear words on the television and scenes of a distressing nature, whose ears she covered during Radio 4 programs about the Iraq War, was the sole witness of a homeless man being murdered by two footballers. Today, Zara will enter the courtroom through a back door shown to them last week and give evidence from behind a screen, known to the jury and the public only as Girl A, her identity protected by the state. Lauren has been impressed with the justice system's dedication since Zara gave her statement. Not a single slip-up. Zara's identity has been protected by an injunction, redacted documents, and the law. The press cannot name her, and if people leak it online, their posts are deleted, and they are arrested. "Scarf on," Aidan says as they do a slow loop behind the Old Bailey, ready to be deposited at the back entrance. Face covered. Zara obliges, wrapping a black scarf around her head, saying nothing. Her dark eyes, so like her father's, the only visible feature, scanning the world outside. "Stop fussing," Zara says. "Our little fuss pot," Lauren says affectionately, glancing at Aidan. He gives her an indulgent, private smile, just for her. Lauren smiles back, then turns to look at Zara. As she does so, she feels a dropping sensation in her gut, like they have just driven over a low bridge. It's unusual for her. She is the calm one, the optimist, the "it'll be finer." Lauren explores the unpleasant sensation within her. It's similar to grief, a slow, soft, sad feeling. She looks down at Zara's hand still in hers. It has lost all its childhood chubbiness around the knuckles in the past year. "No, it's fine. It's fine. It is high level and nerve-wracking, but it is fine. Nothing is going to happen. They are here, together, the sunlight on the backs of their necks. Nothing will hurt them, ruin them, destroy them." She tilts her face up to the light. It's not possible. Chapter 3. Aidan. The Old Bailey, London. Aidan watches as Zara is led, an animal to the slaughter, into the witness box in the empty courtroom. Her eyes are downcast, head bowed, like somebody about to be executed, not cross-examined. She's just shy, he tells himself. She's just nervous, not properly scared. Despite his own reassurances, Aidan is sure that this is not the right thing for Zara to be doing, but his voice has been lost in the crowd. The state does not have her best interests at heart. Of that, he is certain, no matter what they say. To them, she is a commodity. She has knowledge, and that knowledge is going to be extracted from her, and then she will be discarded. They have placated Aidan with promises of anonymity, with assurances that they are professionals, that what she is doing is important and right. But right for who? For them, that's who. If she angers people, if her identity is accidentally leaked, they won't care. They will have got everything out of her that they wanted, and they will leave Aidan and Lauren to clear up the mess. "Well, of course you think that," Lauren had said recently, when he pointed all of this out again. "You're a cynic." And maybe that's true. Aidan is drawn to the negative, is forever perusing horror stories on the internet, has recently taken to binge-reading articles about leaked identities late at night, witch hunts, public sector omnishambles. He works in IT and has spent his days recently voraciously reading past cases instead of working. The curtain is drawn tightly around Zara by an usher, secured by Velcro, which Aidan cannot resist reaching out to check. The usher glances at him, a quick, proprietary look from behind square glasses. Aidan ignores him and keeps checking it along the length of the curtain. If he can just secure it more tightly, make sure nobody at all can see her. "You'll be in the public gallery," the solicitor says to them. Harry's young, mid-30s. He drinks matcha lattes that leave his tongue bright green. Aidan catches glimpses of it as he speaks to them in meetings and has to try very hard not to comment on it. Harry gets on especially well with Lauren. But then everyone does. They're both fast talkers, gesticulators. Lauren invited him over for a curry she made from scratch in the summer. Bought a load of chickpeas at the market, way too many, and Aidan sat and listened to his wife and the CPS solicitor for the evening, worrying about blurred boundaries. Harry runs through Zara's account with her quietly once again. He perches like a flamingo behind the box, one leg against the wall's wood panelling. Aidan and Lauren hover in the corner of the courtroom. "It should be quick," Lauren says. "I think." She runs a hand through her ashy blonde hair. Aidan's wife is sometimes beautiful and sometimes less so, though he would never say that. Aidan finds her fascinating in this way. Her features are slightly irregular somewhere around the nose and mouth. She is interesting to look at, he once said while drunk, which he regretted. "She'll be okay," he reassures her. Though he doesn't mean it, isn't sure. How could he be? He stares up at the windows above and wishes that they hadn't done the right thing. That they had done the wrong thing, the easy thing. That Zara didn't care so much. That she had seen the murder but closed her eyes and walked away. Pretended it had never happened. Chapter 4. Zara. The Old Bailey, London. Zara is sitting behind the black curtains, waiting for the questioning to begin. Although nobody will be able to see her, her cheeks are flushed. She tries to calm herself with deep breaths. All she has to do, she tells herself, is tell the courtroom what she saw. Except it isn't that simple. Not at all. Zara doesn't find anything simple, not really. She is one of life's overthinkers, according to the therapist. But that night changed everything. That night is all about gut instinct for Zara. She reaches to take a sip of the water provided in the white plastic cup. This is different. Right and wrong have become mixed up. She saw the defendant stab the victim, Jamie, while his friend looked on. She saw the blood leaving Jamie's neck, a cascade onto the floor around him. And Zara is here because of that. Because she knew Jamie. She started volunteering in Islington with Waste Not as part of her anxiety recovery. "Look, who do you want to be?" the therapist had said, and Zara had thought, God, who? What a liberating question. "I like causes," she had said eventually. "Like the environment and animals, supporting the underdog, I don't know, homeless people. I feel sorry for them." It had come out of nowhere, but it had felt like real, authentic Zara who was speaking, not the one who tried to fit in at the school away weekend, thinking a million disastrous thoughts a minute instead of cycling, but the real her. And so every other Thursday, at 6 o'clock in the evening, she'd head to the high street to hand out the food that a few cafes and restaurants had reserved for homeless people. She would wear a high-vis vest, bright yellow, and carry a stiff paper bag containing hot meals, the steam gently warming her hand. At first, she had to find the homeless people, in shop doorways, in underpasses, but after a few months, they started coming to her. That's how she had met Jamie. and the rest of them. And that's how she recognised him when she saw him. When she saw what happened to him. Chapter 5. Aidan. The Old Bailey, London. Zara is almost at the end of the questioning. She has told the jury, from behind the screen, what she saw, about the 2 teenage youth football team players who killed a homeless man in the bandstand during the school holidays the summer before last. She's told the courtroom in shaking tones that she knew Jamie, the victim. About Waste Not, about the discarded roof tile the second defendant, Mal, picked up and tossed to the first defendant, Luke. Mal is charged with supplying that weapon, Luke with murder. She tells them about how Jamie lay helplessly, blood leaving his body, until he was silent. Aidan sometimes dreams about what Zara must have seen. A bloodied man and a murderer standing in the twilight. He wakes, itchy with sweat. His stepdaughter doesn't know how much it will affect her later. He wishes he could take this thing she's seen and absorb it into himself. "And what did you hear?" the barrister says. "Not much," Zara says. "The defendants shouted something, a phrase. It was in another language. Latin, maybe? A club motto?" "The club's motto is 'We stand together,' in English," the barrister says icily. "The club's motto is 'We stand together,' in English," the barrister says icily. "Not that," she says. "Never mind. It was, I don't know, a chant." "A chant?" "They said something I didn't understand, all right." "But you can't remember anything more about it." "No." "One final question," the defence barrister says to the curtains through a sigh. He is irritated by Zara, by her evidence. He has a pink mark on his nose from pushing his glasses up with his knuckle, which he does every few minutes. "Can you talk me through the movements of the first defendant, his co-accused, the second defendant, and the victim?" "The movements?" Zara's disembodied voice asks. "They just walked up to this sleeping homeless man, did they? And killed him in situ?" "Yes. Mal passed Luke the roof tile, and he stabbed him with the point of it." "And the homeless man did nothing? Perhaps he was high on drugs or drink?" "No, he wasn't," Zara says. "I see," the barrister says, leaving a drawn-out pause. Aidan looks across the public gallery. There they are. Holloway FC, the Premier League team, all wearing suits and yellow or blue ties, club colours. Some key members of the youth team are here, who feed the Premier League team. 5 men, coaches, managers, a few younger lads too, rangy-looking teenagers with tanned foreheads. Aidan saw the latest Premier League match on television 2 nights ago. The commentators mentioned the upcoming trial, but only briefly. Luke's parents are here too. Aidan has a morbid fascination with them. Their child has done something unthinkable. The parents are desperate to believe it isn't true, not their kid. Aidan knows a watered-down version of that feeling. Doesn't every parent? One Christmas, his daughter from his first marriage, Poppy, called him a twat because she didn't get the £500 pair of trainers she wanted. He ate his Christmas dinner alone, heart in his feet, thinking, "I messed it up. She was supposed to grow up to be nice, humble." That's what children don't realise. They don't realise they are avatars of their parents. It is like Aidan has taken his heart out of his chest and has to watch it walk around outside his body. And the heart doesn't even know. The heart wants Gucci trainers. "So, girl A," the barrister says, "if this was not an intoxicated person, Why would he lie there and not defend himself at all? I don't know. Perhaps he felt he had nothing to live for. No, he did. He did have things to live for. Did he cry out? Or shout? I'm just trying to imagine the scene here. Zara says nothing. Aidan looks over at Luke in the dock. He used to be tall and slim, but after a year on remand in HMP Wandsworth, he is muscular around the neck and arms, like a swimmer. The courtroom is completely silent. Aidan stares at the curtains. I don't know. You don't know? It's a blur. According to your account, Jamie lay silent and still for the entire attack, so you say. How sad that he felt his life wasn't worth anything to even justify rolling over. You're certain he wasn't intoxicated in some way? He didn't do drugs, didn't drink, couldn't afford to. The barrister lets out a sharp, acidic laugh. Surely most sleeping people, if woken by an attacker, as you say, would defend themselves, would they not? Yes. But he didn't. He didn't even lift his head. How tragic. And then, right before Zara says it, Aidan realises. The barrister has worked something out and has set a trap for Zara to walk into. He did fight, Zara says. He stood up first and he lurched towards them. Don't say that about him. He didn't think his life was futile just because he was homeless. He didn't. The courtroom is stunned into silence. Lauren turns to Aidan. She's staring at him, his wife who, at the moment, is in her beautiful guise. She doesn't look away, not even as the barrister starts to speak again. Forgive my confusion, Girl A, but you previously said, under oath, I might add, that the victim did nothing. Page 3 of your witness statement reads, the two defendants were standing over the victim and the first defendant began to attack him while the victim lay there, motionless. I'm sorry. And now, like a gun going off, Aidan realises. Zara has lied. Zara is lying. The courtroom doesn't speak. Nobody moves. Lauren's eyes are boring into the side of Aidan's head. So, what is the true version of events? The barrister asks. Who attacked first? Jamie, Zara says, very quietly. The courtroom stills. Only the judge moves, shifting in his chair at the bench, elevated above the courtroom, and speaks. Girl A, he says softly. He's wearing half-red, half-purple robes, a ludicrous court jester. I have to say, the judge looks over at the witness box, even though he can't see her. He lowers his glasses down his nose. Who attacked first is absolutely crucial in this case. I know, Zara says, her voice strangled and plaintive from behind the curtain. Aidan wants to go and undo the Velcro and gather her up. He can tell Lauren feels the same. Do you know why? Zara says nothing, and Aidan knows she will be staring at the curtains in shock, frozen. She hates to get things wrong. One Christmas when they were playing Trivial Pursuit, her hands were actually shaking as he asked her a question. She answered incorrectly, but he gave her the wedge anyway. For murder to have taken place, the judge says, the defendants need to have intended to cause grievous bodily harm or death, and, crucially, not to have been acting in self-defense. If you have not told the entire truth, Girl A, about the victim's actions, then the defendants may not have committed murder. So I must ask you, what events took place, and in what order? Okay, Zara says, her voice thick. The defendants stood over Jamie, doing nothing. And then he attacked them first. And they reacted to the attack. Aidan listens intently to the silence, shocked. And then it all unravels. I'm sorry, Zara says from behind the curtains. I'm sorry, I lied. There's another beat of silence, and then the courtroom comes alive. The judge shouts, "Approach the bench!" And the barristers stare at each other. The ushers move around to the back of the witness box, and before Aidan knows what's happening, the jury are dismissed through one door and the public gallery through another. As Aidan waits to leave the courtroom with journalists and other family members, he can feel the blood pounding uncomfortably in his head. Harry nods to Lauren and Aidan. He'll bring Zara to them, the nod says, when the courtroom is empty, when it's safe. The hairs on the back of Aidan's neck rise up. They disperse into the foyer, and Lauren sits on a bench, affixed to the wall. Aidan immediately joins her. "Oh, God," she says to him, her expression aghast, eyes wide, hand to her forehead. "She lied," Aidan says. "They still killed someone," Lauren says tightly. "Whatever the detail." "It isn't detail if they were defending themselves," Aidan says. "I'm sure Zara can clear it all up for us," Lauren says. "I'm sure she'll explain." Aidan isn't so certain. Zara called Lauren right after she phoned an ambulance that night. Aidan had been next to Lauren as she took the call, and when they had arrived, Zara's hands were covered in dried blood from where she had tried to stem Jamie's bleeding. Aidan watched as Lauren cleaned them up with a wet wipe from a dehydrated packet in the car, remembering sticky summers gone by, when they'd have both the kids in the back. Poppy and Zara, just a couple of months between them, feet kicking the front seats. Lauren had asked her if Jamie had attacked the boys first, if they were actually defending themselves against him. Aidan recalls it now. Zara had looked at Lauren curiously, those beautiful, roving brown eyes of hers, focused suddenly on her mother. She had been wearing shorts, a denim jacket, and trainers, all blood-stained. "If so, it was self-defense," Lauren had continued. "He could have been threatening them, Zara." Aidan rests his head against the wall of the foyer now. But surely Zara wouldn't lie, would she? Why would she do something so foolish and so unlike her, so misguided? Perjury, for God's sake. Zara's a fucking vegan, a climate change maniac. He thought she was ethical. "She's in meeting room 18, Harry says as soon as he arrives in front of them a few minutes later. He's holding a drink and looking unconcerned in that languid way of his, one hand in the pocket of his suit trousers. He leads them to the side room. It's up 2 flights of stairs that turn back on themselves and down a red-carpeted corridor. It's silent up here, like a museum. Harry holds the door open for them. Zara is sitting there, just as she appeared in their kitchen this morning. Harry sits down opposite them. Lauren naturally turns to Aidan, a question mark in her blue eyes. Zara is absent-mindedly chewing on the inside of her cheek as they sit down, skewing her mouth to the left. "You said Jamie did nothing," Lauren says. "But he did." "Yes," Zara says. Amazingly, she doesn't seem to feel a need to clarify anything further. The mind of the teenager. "What sort of attack was it?" Harry asks. "It's very important, now, that you tell me the truth, Zara." "They stood over him. They roused him, I think. He got up and sort of came at them. He was shouting and stuff. But they scared him. Zara stops speaking and turns her hands over on the table, palms up. A small gesture of defeat. "And what exactly is stuff?" Harry says. "Shouting and..." He taps his pen on the table. "Stuff." Well, Zara says in a small voice. But why would you lie? Lauren interrupts. If he attacked first, Zara. Lauren doesn't understand lying. She tells every single person she meets exactly what she is thinking. Tesco cashiers and mechanics and postmen. No croissant for me, she will say in cafes. I've got £3 left to lose. You want to know why? Zara says. Yes, Lauren says softly. After Luke did it, he shouted at Jamie. He said, "You're a waste of space. You're worthless." Right in his face, as he died. Those were the last words he heard, and, Jamie wanted to start working for one of the cafes that fed him. He had an interview and everything, and now it's all lost. Of course, Aidan thinks, looking at the thoughtful set of her mouth. Zara felt that them killing Jamie, no matter what he did first, was morally reprehensible. Despite the law. Despite everything. I need to clarify the actual facts, Zara, Harry says tightly, glancing briefly at Lauren. So the order of events was that Jamie lashed out at them, and Luke and Mal didn't do anything first. That's correct, Zara says quietly. He got up and he was shouting and screaming and kicking out. He didn't like people in his spaces. He always slept out of the way. He got frightened when people disturbed him. So he came at them, lunged. They tried to move, to run away from him. He was coming towards them and they panicked. They used the roof tile to get him off. Right, Harry says very quietly after a brief pause. That is quite different. But he didn't mean it. I know he didn't, Zara says passionately. He was so scared. He gets like that sometimes because of his PTSD, because of his past, and they were so awful after they'd done it. They didn't regret it at all. So the footballers were the victims of the attack, Harry says, writing something down on a legal pad. They don't seem to behave much like victims to me, do they? Zara says, looking directly at Harry. This is, Lauren says, and Aidan waits, leaving the punishment to her. You shouldn't have done this, she says eventually. Harry looks on impassively, ever the lawyer, gathering the information, waiting, cat-like, for his moment. They didn't care at all, Zara says, and now the tears come. They didn't give a shit. She grips the table. Her hands leave sweaty marks on the formica. They fade as Aidan looks at them, disappearing to nothing. What made you do it? Harry says. Zara considers his question for a few seconds. The police, she eventually answers, folding her hands awkwardly in her lap. I think the police. What? Harry says. Why? They said, and Jamie wasn't attacking them, was he? That's how they said it. Wasn't. I thought about self-defense, but I thought, oh God, it sounds stupid now. But I thought the police wanted me to leave that bit out. I thought I was being invited to. This seems to annoy Harry. He crosses his legs so forcefully under the table that it rises up for a second, and Zara presses down with her hands to steady it. How so? Did they say anything else, Zara? Well, I stammered, and then the woman police officer, she said, and no movement from Jamie. And then she asked, and Jamie was just lying there. And I thought they wanted me to... I thought what the boys did was so bad that we should turn a blind eye to Jamie, because they still killed him, you know? Right, Harry says faintly. Aidan looks at Zara. Teenage logic. There's no nuance to it. No common sense, no understanding of the justice system, of perjury. Just a desire to please, a feeling, instincts. Why would the police want you to do that? Harry adds. Because they want convictions, don't they? Zara says. Numbers, I thought. I don't know. I saw 2 boys kill someone and I guess I got it wrong, didn't I? I did the wrong thing. Clearly. Her head drops ever so slightly. Yes, Harry says. He was lunging at them by your account. They did what any reasonable person would do. I know, Zara says in a small voice, but there is still something defiant about the set of her jaw. Look, Aidan says, what happens now? Harry lets a tiny expulsion of air out of his mouth. It's pretty unprecedented, he says. He checks the time. It's an Apple Watch. The screen springs to life as he turns his wrist. Aidan can see he has a waiting text message too. Lauren leans right over to read it, and Aidan almost smiles. She is always so reliably herself. The prosecution will need to take a view, Harry says. Let me consult with my colleagues across the street. He scoots his chair back and leaves the room in one swift movement. Aidan looks at Lauren, and they leave the room together. I hope he can help us, Lauren says. Aidan frowns. Harry isn't going to help them, he thinks sadly. He belongs to the state. He's there to prosecute crimes on their behalf. Crimes like murder and... yeah. Crimes like perjury, too. Chapter 6. Aidan. Islington, London. In the middle of the night, Aidan is awake for a few moments before he realises. His eyes are open in the not-quite darkness of central London. Lauren is sleeping on her side, turned towards him as she always does, her belly rounded and naked, forming 3 distinct rolls that she'd like to be 2. A burglar alarm is going off somewhere across the street. 3 beeps, then a pause. Aidan taps his foot on the mattress along with it. Beep, 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 pause. Beep, 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 pause. He turns onto his back, an arm above his head, and watches the ceiling light up blue 3 times, then dim. The Crown Prosecution Service reviewed the police tape of Zara's statement in the afternoon, while Aidan, Lauren and Zara waited. Afterwards, Harry had confirmed that Luke and Mal would be completely exonerated, that they were defending themselves against an attack. He had confirmed, too, that the CPS wouldn't press charges against Zara. The interview footage confirmed her account that the police appeared to be asking leading questions, that it would be easy for a teenager to be swayed by such an amateur line of questioning. Outside, afterwards, Lauren had tilted her face to the sun and said that it didn't matter, that it was over. A quick sweep of fear had travelled up Aidan's back, though he didn't know why. He reaches for his phone now. 4:32 in the morning. On Facebook, he sees that a distant friend of his, somebody he met at a party, a friend of Lauren's, has made a charitable donation. His heart sinks when he sees the cause it is for. He needs to steel himself, so he gets out of bed and puts a dressing gown on. Before he leaves, he glances across at Lauren, duvet thrown off her, bottom completely exposed to the air, round and taboo. He stands in the hallway and peers out of the window. Their Islington street is foggy. Big balls of moisture dyed amber by the streetlights. Aidan goes into Poppy's room. He wants to be alone. It's empty right now, and he gets into her bed. It's a double. She chose sheets from the White Company. If it's not a brand name, Poppy isn't interested. And Aidan has to admit, they're very soft. He folds the bottom of the duvet over on itself, creating a kind of envelope, and puts his cold feet inside it. He bought the bedding after Poppy's mother, Natalie's, diagnosis. Multiple sclerosis. The post-divorce world they lived in became even more complicated when those words were spoken by the consultant. Poppy's shopping trip was no compensation for it, but he'd taken her anyway. She'd picked out so much stuff. Silk pillows. So my hair won't curl so much. And a brush cotton sheet. The lot. £180. He'd mentally added up how many hours' work that was on their walk back to his car, a habit he's had since the 2008 recession. He looks at Facebook now, still lit up on his phone, and back at the donation. It's a Kickstarter. Help Luke Taylor back on his feet after Girl A's lies. Donated £10. Disgraceful, is all his friend's comment says. He sits up in bed, silk fucking pillows falling around him. In the half-light of Poppy's empty bedroom, he puts Girl A into Google. He doesn't even have to click the news tab. The internet is awash with his family. Innocent, wronged footballer was attacked by homeless man and served a year in a high-security prison. Suspected killer footballer was actually acting in self-defense. Courtroom shocker. Who is Girl A? What we know. Yet another woman lies in the witness box. When will these false allegations end? What is the future of Holloway FC? Luke Taylor accused, now freed, but with his career in tatters. Aidan blinks, looking at the headlines about his family, about his stepdaughter's lies. Aidan cannot understand how this has happened, how they are here. He clicks on a BBC News article with an accompanying video. It is Luke and Mal on the court steps of the Old Bailey. He presses play, turns the volume down low, and watches. A news presenter narrates over the footage as the defendants stand posing for photographs. Luke Taylor, up-and-coming striker for Holloway FC, was today acquitted at the Old Bailey on a charge of murder alongside his accomplice, Malcolm Henderson, the undulating news reporter's voice says. While the police suspected Taylor and Henderson of murder, the truth emerged in the courtroom during the dramatic questioning of an anonymous witness known only as Girl A. Aidan shudders as the narrator says it. How the fuck has this happened? Taylor and Henderson were, in fact, acting in self-defense against an attack by the deceased, the news presenter says. The truth only came to light under fierce cross-examination from Neil Thorne QC. Taylor was released today, free to return to his life and his career. What is left of it? Henderson's representative was contacted for comment but declined. Taylor's father has told the local news that his son has been robbed of his career. Aidan lies back in the bed, rubbing his hair back from his forehead with the palm of his hand. Bloody hell. Fucking hell. He knows this is just the beginning. Aidan wants Lauren's sunny positivity, her laughter, a wave of her hand. Tomorrow's chip paper, she will say, and he will love her for it. And so, when she arrives downstairs, he knows that he will tell her what he's seen on the internet. She's wearing leggings, a dressing gown and slippers. She wears odd combinations around the house, adding layers as the day goes on. A t-shirt, a jumper of his, a cardigan, bed socks and a woolly hat. By the end of the day, she is layered up like a Russian doll. It's 7 o'clock in the morning. The kitchen is half lit by a grey sky and nothing else. Their dog, Bill, stands solemnly by his bowl. Lauren blows him an unself-conscious kiss as she arrives in the kitchen, as she does most mornings. She refers to him as her son to strangers and has a photograph of him in her purse right next to Zara and Poppy. Lauren falls in love with things. It's a lesson Aidan learnt early on. Bill was a guide dog puppy. Lauren applied to foster him 5 years ago without telling Aidan. That was Lauren all over. Zany schemes. He wishes he could be more that way, less uptight. But he can't. Not since his father died, when Aidan was 15 anyway, and he became a man. And so he did the next best thing. He married someone fun. She said she would be paid to maintain the puppy's training at home and to drop him off at school every day. Substitute second baby, she had said glibly. She'd just turned 40. The baby-making window had closed. And they'd wanted it to, mostly, ready to move on with their blended family. No pushchairs, no nappies, no kids' club holidays. I have to hand him over when he's 2, though. When he becomes a proper dog, she'd explained when she sent the form off. When he graduates. Bill went everywhere with Lauren. He rode upright in the passenger seat of her car to parks on the outskirts of London. Should I put a seatbelt on him? And slept at her feet while she watched television. Lauren would use we whenever she spoke about him. We've been to Hyde Park. We've been playing tug of war all afternoon. Aidan could see what was going to happen before Lauren could. The week before Bill was due to be eligible for guide dog applications, Lauren turned to Aidan and said, "You know what?" "What?" Aidan said. "If I could run away with this dog and not give him back, I would. Be a fugitive on the run from Guide Dogs UK. And then she gave a laugh, a sort of maniacal laugh that told him she meant every word. "You want to keep him," he said flatly. Lauren shrugged. "I love him," she'd said. She self-consciously moved a strand of hair out of her eyes. "I'm fucking 40, she'd said with a laugh. "But I love this stupid dog." "But a blind person needs him." "I know." The next day, while he was working, a text had come through. Guide Dogs UK said some people do buy back the dogs they trained. That was all it said. Sent exactly at 1 p.m, not a minute earlier or later. Lauren had likely waited all morning for his lunch hour. "What's their price?" Aidan had asked, his blood pressure rising. Lauren had gone silent, unusual for her. When he walked in, she said, "Don't be mad." He raised his eyebrows, holding onto the wall as he eased his trainers off. He said nothing, something his wife was joyfully incapable of. "I asked the price like you told me to," she said, like it was all his idea. "And we could do it." "How much?" "We could do it if we remortgaged." "Remortgage? For a dog?" Aidan said. "We could keep him. The funds are used to train loads more. That's why it's so expensive, to ease the moral burden." Bill appeared then, padding into the hallway. Lauren's hand drifted down to the top of his head and rested there, completely unconsciously. But it wasn't the hand that did it. It was the look on her face. A brief close of her eyes, a smile just beginning as her fingers fanned out across his yellow fur. Love. Lauren fell in love easily, and she fell hard. Aidan sent the mortgage form off the next day. They gave Bill a middle name, Gates. It made them laugh. "He's the richest dog in the world," Lauren said the day the money came through. "Sleep well," Lauren says now, though he guesses she knows the answer. "You should see this," Aidan says, the anxiety erupting from him without warning. He opens his laptop and tries to pass it to her across the kitchen counter, but it's so messy. She went shopping the other day and overloaded the fruit bowl. It towers between them. She reaches for the computer and stares at the screen as she holds it, standing up. What? She says. She reaches over to boil the kettle, balancing the laptop on the palm of her hand. The kettle's blue light comes on, illuminating her face. She looks tired. "There's a crowdfunder. For Luke."